To start developing with PHPixie or any other PHP framework, the first thing that you will have to do is set up a development environment. Now, this of course can easily be done by downloading a bundled package such as MAMP for macOS or VAMP for Windows that has built-in Apache, PHP, and MySQL. But in the long term, those are very hard to manage, and if you will ever need to install some other programming language such as Ruby and Node.js, you will have to manage it yourself, and these tools are simply not built to be run on Windows, and some even don't run very well on macOS. And Linux is the environment that all of them were built for and are usually deployed to. So the correct approach is to have a virtual Linux machine that all these tools are running on, and then manage that virtual machine on your operating system. So this sounds complex, but it's actually something that you will have to set up once, and then such virtual machines are very easy to reuse, and if you will ever happen to break it or remove some important system files or anything like that, you can just dispose of it and recreate it from scratch without losing any of your own files, which are persisted back to your host OS. Now, to do this, the first thing you will have that you need is VirtualBox. The VirtualBox is the server, the backend on which all these virtual operating systems run. So installing it is super simple. You just go to the website, download whichever package is appropriate for your operating system, click next a bunch of times, install it, and you're done. Then, since managing virtual boxes manually may be a bit hard for new users and it still requires a lot of manual work, there is this another tool called Vagrant which automates all of this, and instead of doing all the manual configuration, all you do is create configuration files. You can download Vagrant from vagrantapp.com. Just click download, select the package appropriate for your system, click next a bunch of times, and you're done. So now that you have two tools installed that are making running a guest operating system possible, the last thing that you need is the configuration file itself. Now, those may be tricky to write and actually require quite a bit of knowledge of both the guest operating system and the host one. So there is a great tool that is made especially for PHP projects. It's called PHPixie, which allows you to configure the system online and then just download the configuration files needed. So let me guide you through what you have to do here. You go to the site. So now let's go to deploy target. So here there is a bunch of available platforms that we would be able to deploy it to, but we just need a local system, so we select locally here. You don't have to touch any of the settings here. We might, apart from maybe bumping up the memory, because the default limit is 512 megabytes, which is kind of low, especially for something that's run locally. I usually just bump it to a gigabyte, which is 1024, and then you would bump the number of CPUs it's allowed to use to the number of CPUs that you have. I have 4 CPUs that I put 4. If you're not sure how many CPUs are in your system, you can just leave it as 1, and it's going to be okay. So anything else here you don't really need. The only interesting part is the shared folders. It specifies the folder that is going to be shared between your own operating system and the virtual one. So all the files you create on your operating system in that folder are going to be immediately available in the Linux. So the configuration here is great by default, so you don't have to touch anything. So we can ignore the system settings. Now let's go to web servers. So by default, the Nginx web server is used, but it's less newbie friendly than Apache, and Apache seems to be easier to, if you are also running like WordPress or some other CMSs that usually target it with their htaccess files first. And so it will require less configuration in the long time. long run. So I uncheck in install Nginx and I go here and install Apache. And by the way, Apache is my personal preference. I will run it everywhere and I really like it. So now, this is the important part of our configuration, and that is setting up the website that you will be running. So these are called virtual hosts. So each virtual host is a website in your virtual machine. For now, we will just have a single one, but you can add more later by using the add an Apache vhost here. So let's look here. So the server name is the made-up domain name that your website will be available on. So I'm choosing pixie.local. You can put anything here. Server alias is additional domain names. You don't need them. Just remove it. Document root is the path where the files are going to be. So for PHPixie, it's going. We just type pixie/web because Pixie relies on having a public web folder in it. But if you were running, for example, WordPress, you would just use some folder name here without the web suffix. So let's have it pixie/web, and then we have to set the directory block to be the exact same thing as document root. So bang, bang. Now this sounds complex, but actually if you were doing this the MEMP or the WAMP way, you would have to set the exact same configuration options in the config files, and you would have to do it manually, and you would actually have to understand the config files. So this is way easier than going the easy way. So Pixie local, they only change the Pixie local document root /wv Pixie web, and here /wv Pixie web has to match the upper one. Everything else we leave being the default. Now let's take a quick look at the databases. It's going to install MySQL by default. This is the root password. This is another user it's going to create. We'll cover this later. None of this is actually important at this moment. Now download our custom server config. That is it. So basically all we changed were like just a bunch of settings. But before we actually run it and create the Linux environment, we first have to additionally configure the VirtualBox. So find the two folders that you installed, VirtualBox and Vagrant 2. So in my case, it is going to be AD HashiCorp Vagrant and the program files Oracle VirtualBox. So once you located these two folders, open them like this, one by one. And in the Vagrant folder, go into the bin directory. So now you have them like this. It is important for the next step, and the next step is right-click the PC, your PC, select Properties, go to Advanced System Settings, Environment Variables, highlight Path, and press Edit. So what we are going to do is add these folders, the Vagrant bin folder and the Oracle VirtualBox folder, to our system path. So these executables are available everywhere. So go here, select the path, then go to the very end of this huge text line, put a semicolon in, and then put the path in. And then do the exact same thing for the other path. Wait, VirtualBox, bang, copy it, go to the end of the line, put a semicolon in. Now you have to be very careful with this step because it's easy to screw up something here, and then the Vagrant is not going to run. But again, this is just one thing, something you have to do once. So then you will press OK, but I already have this done, so I'm just going to press cancel all the way. Now we have VirtualBox and Vagrant configured. Now the thing that we downloaded, the PuPHPet zip file, contains a randomly named folder that you have to extract somewhere and rename to something legible like PuPHPet. So I will put it in my disk D PuPHPet. This is the folder inside it. Now, all you have to do now is just run it. So everything's configured. All you need to do is run it. For that, select the path on the top, and instead of the path, type cmd, which is going to call the command line, and type vagrant up. This is going to download the base Linux box, configure it. It's actually going to take a while, about 15 to 20 minutes, and like if it has an error, just you can find me on the chat on the forum, and I will help you to fix it. But it usually finishes perfectly, and it's already ran in my case, so I'm actually not going to be running this. After your system, after the command finishes, your system is booted up and ready to go. So we can actually go now and enter the Linux server and try and create the PHPixie project in it. So to do this, we run Vagrant SSH, which is going to drop us in the command line inside the server. It might take us some while, but it should be rather fast. All right, almost done. All right, now let us go to that varvv folder where the PHPixie project should be in. Remember the one that we configured here, varvv PHPixie web. So now we go to cd/varvv. So I'm using Linux commands. You will probably have to learn those if you are going to be a web developer, because it's pretty mandatory at this point. So I'm in the varvv directory, and what I'm doing now is I'm going to create the PHPixie project. First let's check here, PuPHPet. If the PHPixie folder exists here, because it might have gotten created, then you should just delete it from here. And actually you will notice that the varvv folder and this PHPixie folder are synchronized. So if I add, like let's say I will actually create a file here, and it's got immediately created here. See, I created a test file called test, and it got created here. So these folders are synchronized, and that is what allows us to be using our favorite IDEs and tools to edit them on our own operating system and then run it on Linux. So now let's go to the PHPixie website and get the command that creates the project for you. Just scroll down, get started, go, and this is the command. Since PuPHPet installs Composer globally, we can actually make it shorter. Instead of, you don't need to download Composer file, or all you need to do is copy this part, then go here, type Composer, and paste the rest. If you don't know how to paste in the command line, it's right-click on the top bar, edit paste. So Composer, create project, PHPixie project, your project folder, 3DAO. So instead of your project folder, I'm going to type PHPixie so that it corresponds with our configuration. And now it's going to download and install PHPixie for us. Notice how the PHP is already here, Composer is already here, everything is configured and running. So this PHPixie is going to take a while to install. While it's doing it, let us try connecting to the database. So the best tool that you can probably find for free on Windows is hidesql.com, which is this one. So download it, click next, install it, it's going to be ready. And the other thing we will need is plink exe. You can just look for plink, and plink is going to be required to connect hidesql with our server. So this is the top link. Oh, sorry, that was not the top link. This is this one, the PuTTY download page. You're looking for PuTTY exe, not PuTTY, plink exe. So download this file, put it somewhere that you know. I already have it downloaded. So, and now let's fire up hidesql and configure our connection. So first, you select MySQL SSH tunnel from this dropdown, because you need the client to connect to the same tunnel that we went to get to the command line. Hostname IP you don't have to change. User is root and password is 123. We set those here. See, root password 123. 123. Port 3306. Everything is great here. Now go to the second tab, SSH tunnel, and this requires a bit more configuration. See, it says Plink exe location. So here you have to tell where you downloaded Plink. I have it in D, so I just put the D Plink exe. Now, SSH host plus port. So this IP is the same IP that we saw here. When we went to locally, you see an IP here, IP address. So take this IP address and put it here, and here you put 22. So IP address 22, username is Vagrant, and then you have to select the private key file. So the private key file is located in the PuPHPet folder. You go to PuPHPet, files, .ssh and ID RSA-ppk. And actually you don't have to remember this because if you go to databases, MySQL here, it actually tells you where the file is located. So none of this you have to remember. Just be careful when you read it. And the local port, make sure it's 3306 because it has to be the same port as in the local. So 3306. Now we click open. And bang, we are connected to the database on the Linux. So you see, even though we have everything running on the Linux operating system, from our point of view as a user, we don't even notice that. But if at some point we will need to change something, it's going to be way easier than if we were using a bundled package like VAMP or MEMP. So now we have the MySQL management set up. Let's see if PHPixie finished installing. It's still downloading. So it's almost done, by the way, but there is one less step that we need, and that one less step is, remember the fake domain that we created here in the web servers Apache, Pixie local. We actually have to tell Windows that that domain exists and that domain is our virtual machine. So to do that, click Windows, look for Notepad, but don't start in Notepad. You have to start it as an administrator. Right? So when your Notepad starts, give it a sec. Actually, I'll close, hide SQL for now. Alright, Notepad. Now go to File, Open, and you're looking for this file. C Windows System 32 drivers etc, and then select here all files, and you need hosts. So remember the path, C Windows System 32 drivers etc hosts. So this is the file with all where you are going to put all your fake domains. So we take the fake domain, and we take the IP address. So you have the fake domain and you have the IP address set up. And write them like this. So first the IP address and then the fake domain name. Save the file, close it. Now let's check. Composer asks us if we want to remove VCS. Yes, we want to remove everything. And Pixie is installed. So now I can just go to HTTP Pixie local. And here it is. PHPixie 3.0, have fun coding. Alright. So, this would be all awesome already. So everything is running. Now let's learn to turn the, now let's say that we already did something. We did some modifications to it. And actually here is our project. See, Pixie, these are all your files here. You can go ahead and change something. Let's say Let's go to src project. Actually, let's try changing the message so you can see that which one would that be? Bundles, app, assets, templates, grid PHP. All right, let's try type in test here in h1 test. Save it. Pane. Refresh. Now this takes a while just because I have a bunch of stuff running in the background right now, so the virtual machine is not really that slow. So you see, all my edits are back here. We know the user password to the database. We can manage the database, everything we want. So now let's say we finished working with it. We want to turn off our computer in a safe way. So what we do, we say we exit the command line here. Then we say Vagrant hold, which is going to stop it. Stop the virtual box. It also takes a while. And now comes the sweetest part. So PuPHPet has been so great so far, but you might have concerns thinking that in the future, when you will want to add additional site or reconfigure something, you will have to do all this process from the beginning or recreate the virtual machine. But you actually don't need to. It's very smart. All you have to do is sometime in the future, when you want to change something, you go to your PuPHPet folder, go to PuPHPet and find the config YAML file. So then go to PuPHPet.com, which is just a fresh website, and drag your config file onto it. It's going to import all of the settings that you set up. So for example, I can go here to web servers, Apache, see my document root. Everything is imported back. I can edit this, download the file, replace my old files with the new files, run Vagrant up again, and it's going to apply all the differences that I did to my existing system. So for example, if I add a new virtual host, like a new server, I click here, add an Apache virtual host, everything this. And then we download it and reapply. I'm just going to create a new website in the virtual system. Now, another great thing where it can be used is sharing. After you configure this and created it once, you can send this folder to a friend with your code, with everything, like just this. Where it is? Here. Tell him that all he needs to do is run Vagrant up, and then he will have your code running, everything set up, and we'll be able to take a look at it right away. So PuPHPet, Vagrant, and VirtualBox is a great way to start and developing your projects. And the best thing is, at least for me, is that you can use this to play around with new things. So if you just have your system and it has PHP 5.6 with a bunch of custom extensions and everything is working, and now you want to try PHP 7 or some new version of PHP or a new version with MySQL, you might be very because you won't want to update the system and then see that it's not working anymore with your code, and now you have to downgrade back again, and what if some configuration files get lost? In this case, you don't have to think about it, because your environment is totally destructible and recreatable from the ground up. So you might as well just copy the folder, put it in a new place, change some config settings, rerun it again. So I hope this has been useful. If you have any questions, just come and ping me on the chat. Also, I just used PHPixie as an example. As I said, this can be applied to any project, even WordPress and anything that you're working on. So thanks. I hope you liked the tutorial.